Undertaking challenges can spell potential trouble for your characters, but it's easy and fun for the players. Let's take a closer look at how challenges work in Defiant. In Defiant, every challenge is a chance to tell the group more about your character. By picking the useful traits, and explaining how the character relies on them in the task at hand, you draw a more detailed picture of the Defiant Royal you're playing. You start by establishing how likely your character is to succeed in the challenge. In other words, the player controlling the character needs to choose all their character's traits that could be useful in this situation. For example, let's say your character is playing a high-stakes game of poker. They are trying to get the better of their rival, another Defiant Royal. For whatever reason, your character really wants to win the game. It is now your job as a player to explain how your character sets out to achieve their goal. You can pick any of the traits from the character sheet, as long as you can explain how they influence the situation in the character's favor. Here's your character sheet. From your set of traits, you could choose exploits vanity, and explain that your character lets their adversaries boast about their achievements and let their guard down. You might add resistant to intoxication, detailing how your character makes sure everyone drinks a lot during the game, losing their edge to the resilient character. Unmoved by emotions seems like another good choice. Not getting carried away in a game of poker is surely an advantage. You could go a bit out of a limb here and add sympathetic reputation. Your character might use their reputation to cover up their ruthless poker tactics. After all, who would expect a sympathetic person to exploit their opponent's weaknesses? You can choose any number of traits, as long as the whole group, that is the GM and the rest of the players, agree that your explanation makes sense. The total number of the traits your character used is called the potential. So, in our example, your character's unmodified potential equals 4. So far, so good. Remember though, that your royal is playing against another Defiant, an NPC, and we need to take this into consideration. The NPCs do not undertake challenges. They can however influence your chances of succeeding. Every NPC has their own archetype, usually a 2-word description. It can be anything from aggressive bouncer and charming conman, to power-hungry despot, or remarkable swordswoman. In our example, the character is playing against a witty collector. Either word in the NPC's archetype can be used to influence the challenge. Since usually only the GM knows the archetype, they get to decide which elements to use. In this case, the GM decides that since the opponent is witty, this should count as an obstacle. The player is told to lower their character's potential by 1, bringing it down to 3. Additional circumstances may influence the character's potential, but we'll keep things simple. Once you know the value of the potential, you have to roll the appropriate dice. If your potential equals 0, you get to roll 3d6s. Each point of potential above 0 upgrades a single die in your pool from a d6 to a d8. So, having a potential of 1 would require you to roll 2 d6s and a single d8. A potential of 2 would upgrade another die, resulting in a pool of a single d6 and 2 d8s. Since in our case, the potential equals 3, you would roll a pool of 3 d8s. All of the 6-sided dice were upgraded to d8s. If your potential was higher than that, say 4, the d8s would start to be upgraded into d10s. A potential of 4 would result in a pool of 2 d8 and a single d10. The highest possible die pool consists of 3 10-sided dice. This would require your character to undertake a challenge with a whooping potential of 6. Now, back to our example. We've already established that the character will have the potential of 3. This means, you should roll a pool of 3 8-sided dice. In Defiant, whenever you roll the dice, all results of 5 and above count as successes. The more successes you score during a roll, the better for the character. The bigger the potential, the more sided dice you roll. Scoring a 5 or above on a 6-sided die is not extremely likely, while it is pretty common on a d10. In our example, the character will roll 3 d8s. While there's a slim chance of scoring 3 successes, you should feel pretty confident about getting at least a single result of 5 or above. The challenges in Defiant are usually more about the extent of the character's success, additional costs and problems they had to overcome, than about whether they succeeded or not. Once you've rolled the dice and the number of successes is clear, it is time for the GM to interpret the roll and narrate the outcome of the challenge. Since you were rolling 3 dice, you ended up with between 0 and 3 successes. These are the 4 basic outcomes of each challenge. 0, 1, 2, or 3 successes. If the character scored no successes at all, they're at the mercy of the GM. They almost certainly failed their original task, but regardless, they're now in some sort of trouble. Perhaps, the character was running low on funds, and borrowed money from another royal at the table. Now, not only did they lose the game, they also need to find a way to repay their loan. Being in debt to another defiant royal is no light matter and can spell all sorts of different troubles. A single success means, the character did achieve the original goal, but they are probably not sure whether it was worth it. They either paid a heavy price, had a tough choice to make, or rather than getting exactly what they wanted, went a bit off the mark. Maybe the character managed to beat the royal, but the opponent did not take kindly to the defeat. He is now furious, ready to resort to violence to reclaim his self-esteem. The character did win, but now needs to face the wrath of the rival. Should they fight him? Flee from the club? Maybe try to calm him down? It's up to the character now. 2 successes means the outcome is almost perfect. The character achieved almost all they wanted to. There's just that one small thing, a minor setback, a slight inconvenience, a potentially problematic choice they need to make. In our example, this could mean that while the rival is clearly beaten and has accepted his defeat, there was someone else observing the game. The character's spouse was present at the event, and, for whatever reason, she does not approve of the way the character handled the situation. The character is sure, they're in for a serious talk. The situation is by no means dramatic, but still, there's a small setback in an otherwise outstanding victory. Finally, scoring a total of 3 successes results in achieving the victory along with some additional gains or benefits. In Defiant, the character never gets exactly what they wanted. They might get a little less or a little more, so that the outcome is always interesting. If the character scored a total of 3 successes, they clearly won the poker game. That's for sure. Additionally, the character gained something more. Perhaps the opponent went all in a desperate and ultimately futile effort to turn the tide of the game. As a result, the character came into possession of a magical trinket of unknown origin, that their rival included as part of their ante. Regardless of the number of successes rolled, and how the story progressed, the challenge is now over. As you can see from this example, the scope of the challenge is usually a broad objective or conflict, rather than a simple task. A single dice roll is all that is needed to find out how the whole situation unfolded. And these are the basics of Defiant challenges. There are some additional rules, like spending shards to improve the character's chances, or getting into additional trouble when scoring a 1 on any of the dice, but they're easy to learn once you understand the main mechanics. Thanks for watching, and if you found this clip interesting, be sure to check out the Defiant role-playing game. All the links are in the description below.